Excellent. If you're able to, please come on camera. I would love to see your face on this beautiful, unusually beautiful November Tuesday morning. Hopefully during lunch break, I'm gonna go take a little walk outside and get some fresh air. It looks very nice out. Today's assistant instructor is Mr. Justice Santiago. Justice, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you, Justice?
I'm fine.
So, Justice, why don't you tell us a little about yourself? Where are you from?
I was born in North Carolina, but I've been living in New York for like the past like I guess a really long time.
Very cool. Love it. So, where do you consider home, North Carolina or New York?
Uh, I guess I'd say New York because I haven't actually spent like enough of my time in North Carolina. I guess at the age that I am, or being able to go places and do things.
Sure. Makes sense. Very cool. Why did you join Europe, Justice?
I joined Europe to, I guess, learn how to manage money better. So when I figure out what I want to do, I'm able to have a stable income while doing it, or be able to support myself as well.
Awesome. Awesome. We're having a question from the peanut gallery. Get it? Because she's eating nuts. Thank you. I'll be here all day. Where in North Carolina are you? Where did you used to? Where are you from, Justice? Because Sophia used to live there.
Charlotte.
Charlotte. Okay, cool. Awesome. And so you joined Europe for that reason. And what is a fun fact about you, Justice?
I guess a fun fact would be that I guess I'm trying heavily to like start like doing digital art. I'm making like a routine to like practice every day, so I don't. Yeah, so I just get better at it.
Yeah, excellent. Very cool. Digital art. I love it. Um, I literally have no idea what the follow-up question is. So I don't even know what digital art is. How do you go about doing that? Like, what does that even like? What medium do you use? Like, do you use a computer, an iPad? Like, how does that work?
The medium I use is my laptop. I downloaded, essentially, I bought like a drawing program so I could be able to practice and have the resources in front of me.
Awesome. Awesome. Angie Martinez is asking, what kind of art do you do?
I guess character art. Like I have characters that I draw and stuff that I made.
Nice. Awesome. Very cool. All right, Justice, last question before we jump into the lecture. What is a question that you want to ask to our group?
I guess one of the question I'd ask is what inspires you. I guess just to like, yeah, what are you passionate about, or what inspires you?
Awesome. Excellent question. So in the chat box, what are you passionate about or what inspires you? And as the chat box is being populated, Justice, what is it that inspires you?
So I guess social media sort of inspires me because there's a lot of people and stuff I follow that like also do art, and I really like seeing how the process they use and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So that's great. So looks like the answers are coming in. Um, says Randy says to make money inspires me. Andrew wrote my grandma, my family. Sophia to be healthy and happy. Science, the desire to not be destitute inspires me. Yeah, that is very inspiring, isn't it? Science, freedom. Renish says cooking or reading, happiness and money. To be happy and spread happiness. Preciosa says living freely, and my family. Awesome answers. Thank you all so much for sharing. So today's lesson, I think you as IO students are really going to appreciate because we're talking all about money today and how do you fund a project? How do you get the money that you need for a project? So there's not a doubt in my mind that you'll be very excited about today's lecture. So to start off our time together, I have a scenario that I want to ask the group. So as you can see here in the chat box, also thank you, Justice, for being assistant instructor today. Just a quick reminder, if you have a question, comment, put in the chat box, raise your hand, and just will flag me and say, hey, Eric so-and-so has their hand up. I'm happy to call on you, but I'm working from home today, as you can probably see by my background. So I don't have my split screen, so it's kind of hard for me to see the chat box and who has their hands raised. But here's the scenario. You just graduated Europe 3 years ago. You just got promoted to a mid-level position at a great company. And just for the sake of making everything easy, it's at 25 Broad Street, the same building that Europe is at. And you're making 75K a year, and you're now ready to get your own place. And because people always ask, well, what do you mean your own place? I'm just going to say, you no longer live with your family. You no longer live with roommates. You're branching out. You're becoming your own person. Maybe you live with your partner. That's fine. But you no longer live with your folks. You no longer live with roommates. You're getting your own place. And I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to give you 2 places that you can move to. All right, now that you're getting your own place, and we're going to talk about why you chose which one. All right, Justice, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So this is your first option. You can live in Jersey, suburban New Jersey. You can have this beautiful house. Look at this nice big yard you can have. Nice quiet street, it looks like. A little patio in the back. You can have a nice garden. You can grow some vegetables. Ooh, you can have an in-ground pool. It's pretty nice. That's a pretty big pool, like a personal pool. You got some Adirondack chairs. You can relax and, take it easy. You got 1 bathroom here. Got a nice big master bedroom. That bedroom's like bigger than my apartment. Got you another bathroom here. Got a nice little kitchenette area overlooking the patio. You have a full kitchen there. You have a living room. There's your cooking area, some bar stools and a bar to eat breakfast. So that's your first option. All right. Now, can you still see my screen's Justice, or did nothing change?
I still see the screen.
All right. Do you see the apartment now? 20 Exchange Place.
Yes.
All right. Now your other option is you can live here. Now the house in New Jersey, you have a 1 hour long commute. All right. This place right here is right next to where you work. So it costs the same. So they have a very small kitchen. You do have a dishwasher, which, I mean, that's pretty luxury living in New York City. You have a small little refrigerator. You have 1 tiny little bathroom. You have a nice common area, which probably is not, available to be used because of COVID, but you have it. You can, go there and play pool with your friends. You have a nice little gym, which is pretty sizable. I mean, it's like pretty huge for a building gym. You have a really nice patio overlooking the city. You can hang out there with friends. You can eat food. You can have a drink. You can enjoy your time. As a view of the building, beautiful Manhattan, lit up at night with the sun going down. But this is the downgrade. You're living in a very, very, very small space, as you can see here. It's like, I don't know how well you know about real estate, but basically you can put like a couch in there and maybe a single bed. And that's about it. Like, it's pretty tiny. But you have a pretty nice place to live. Like right there's Wall Street. Like you're literally right there, 2-minute walk to commute. Now, I'm going to put a ripple into this scenario. All right, here's your ripple. Let me put in the chat box. You only go to the office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and you have 6 weeks of PTO a year. So, on the right side, where your name is, if you say, "Give me the house," I'm moving to the house in New Jersey. Give me a green check. If you're like, I'm taking the apartment in Lower Manhattan, red X. So, studio apartment, heart of the city, 2-minute commute. Very cool clubhouse, rooftop patio, or the house in Jersey where you have the big yard and all that kind of stuff. You have the pool, which is your own private pool. It's pretty cool, but you have an hour commute. And we'll just, for the sake of argument, we'll say an hour on like a good day. So like, yeah, because people always ask, well, is it always an hour? We'll just say on a good day, it's an hour. Maybe sometimes it's an hour and a half. Maybe sometimes it's 2 hours. So yes, green is Jersey. Red is New York. By car, Yoel. So you're driving. There's a parking garage in that neighborhood. I used to park there back in the day. It's only $20 for the day. So you drive there, you park your car, $20 for the whole entire day. All right, let's take a look here at what our answers are. All right, Brian, you said green check. You said the house in Jersey. Why'd you choose that?
Well, if I'm only going to work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm not going to want to be stuck in a tiny living space. So I feel like the New Jersey would be more worth it. And then with the 6 weeks of PTO, I'd probably use that in the summer and get to use the pool up a lot.
All right, very cool. Thank you, Dondre. You chose the apartment in Manhattan. Why did you choose the studio?
Honestly, I chose the studio because I would be working a lot. I would be out a lot. So what's I wouldn't even be at home. And you said 3 years after I graduated Europe, I'm probably not gonna have a wife or kids. So it's gonna be too big of a house for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was my reasoning for it.
Yeah, you don't want to have a 3-bedroom house out in the country. It's kind of creepy when you live by yourself, right? It's too
Super
much
long.
space. You never know, Dondre. You never know. You could meet, the right person in the next year for all you know. I got married at 24, so I mean anything's possible. So
I'll keep that in mind.
all right, I'm no pressure. I mean, obviously that's not a decision you rush into. All right. And Jose, you said that you would take the house.
Yeah. I only work 3 days. There's no reason for me to really be coming into the city that often. One, I'll probably be owning the house compared to just renting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and hopefully it would appreciate in value. So if later on I could sell it.
Yeah, excellent point, Jose. So if you rent, you're not putting any value into your property, you just are renting. But if you own the place, hopefully it's appreciating and you're building equity. Good point. And if you're gonna live there long term, that's even better. I'm glad you brought that up. And Randy, you said, nope, I'm not going to Jersey. I'm staying in New York. Why'd you choose the studio?
Well, one, it's Jersey. It's gonna start with that.
What's that supposed to
uh,
mean?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have no plans of moving to Jersey. New York is pretty much the hub of it, and especially when you live downtown. It's everything's there.
Yeah.
If it's 3 years after we graduated Europe, then technically, we're just getting into our careers.
Mm-hmm.
And then having a home on top of that, all that space, that's kind of a headache on its own. So, minimalist lifestyle, nice little studio apartment, seems pretty cool. I don't know. And then I don't see myself starting a family anytime soon either, still happy bachelor. So that's how,
Yeah. You and Dondre living the bachelor life. All right, love it. Yeah, I mean the thing of it is, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just as curious, but as you can tell, we all made a decision based on different variables, right? Some of us said we want to have some more space. Some of us said we want to live in the heart of the city. Some of us said we don't want to commute. Some of us said we want to build equity. If you were to ask me, if I was 3 years from graduating Europe and I was a single person or had a partner and that was it, I definitely would choose a studio. I lived in the country for like 3 years, and it wasn't the scene for me. And the only thing you can order after 9 p.m. is Domino's. I don't want to live in that town. Let's just leave it at that. That's my only option. Domino's or bad Chinese. That's not my scene. Even now I have 2 kids. I live in a 1-bedroom, and I much rather live in New York City in a 1-bedroom than live in a house in Jersey. Some people like it, that kind of life. Awesome. Maybe one day I will, but as of right now, I prefer city life. I'm like Randy. I don't want to mow a lawn. I don't want to worry about taking care of a property. I don't want to do any of that. I'd rather just come home and enjoy my time. Yeah, Renish, do you have your hand up?
Yeah. When it comes to that, it's like multiple factors. Especially for me, I probably would take the house, but after like 2 years, I'd end up like renting it out. I'll rent it out, let it pay part of the mortgage, build the equity, definitely do some renovations, and probably end up selling the house in like 5 years.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, one thing I always thought would be kind of cool is like to have a place in New York and then have like a house in like PA that you could like live at in the summertime, right? Like in the Poconos. That'd be like a nice blend, right? Tyrell, there's more for the kids where in New York or in Jersey?
That's more of like personal experience since I'm like an hour from the city now. But like I feel like I'd take the house because there's more things to do. Everything's a little bit farther away, but like there's more for your family.
Yeah, that makes
especially
sense.
if you're starting out.
No, good point. I have to say it's like not very much fun when you're trying to like load up, that we have a minivan, which that's a whole different story. But when you're trying to like, load up all your kids' stuff to like go visit grandma, when you live in a 5th floor apartment in New York City, double parked in front of a hydrant, stressed out, it's not awesome. I'm just gonna be totally honest. It's just not a very fun. I'm not a very happy person. But if it's like you have a driveway, just leave your car there and just like load it up, whatever. That's not a big deal. So yeah, people who raise their kids in the city are very special people. Anyways, we won't spend our whole entire time talking about that, even though we probably could. So obviously projects cost money. We're all aware of that, right? Every project's going to cost have a dollar amount attached to it. So you're all finance students. You guys think about money, know about money. Why do you think certain projects get funded and other projects don't get funded? We always have a project sponsor, the person or the entity who pays for a project. Why do some receive funding and some not receive funding? And want to raise their hand and take a stab at it? Brian, you said the risk involved in the track record. Do you want to unmute yourself and share what you mean?
Yeah, so let's say someone's asking for funding on a project. If they have a portfolio, I guess, of past projects, and you see that they're all successful and seem to have like a good ROI, they're more likely to get the funding as opposed to someone who's like brand new or has failed projects in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the reputation of the person and the ROI, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. And Angie, you said not enough information. What do you mean by that, Angie?
Maybe they didn't have they didn't put everything that they were supposed to post. So maybe feel like the investors didn't feel secure about the project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe they didn't feel like they had enough information. They didn't know enough to put their money up. Sophia says they don't see potential in them or don't like the idea. So is them, Sophia, is that like the project team you're talking about?
That would be like the project itself, I think. Yeah.
Gotcha. Like you're saying, I don't see this ever going anywhere, so I'm not going to invest in it. Yeah, unclear deadline, Chelsea, absolutely. Like, I'm not really sure when this is going to get done. And then details, maybe there's not enough details. We're going to talk about that as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen. We're going to talk about how do projects get funded, important part of project management. And sometimes you as a project manager have to convince the project sponsor that this is a worthy cause to invest in. Justice, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, sir. So obviously, everybody in this class can read, but these are the 5 primary reasons that projects need to happen. The top 2, compliance and emergency, those are kind of the easiest sells, right? So like if it's like, hey, if we don't do this, we're going to face a monetary penalty. That's going to motivate just about anybody to put their money up front and have a project be funded. And then also emergency things, must do. That's a pretty easy sell. If we don't do this, there's going to be big consequences. The analogy that I shared with the last class, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is imagine that there's a bridge in rural upstate New York that needs to be renovated. If it's compliance, that would mean that an engineer came out and looked at it and said, hey, this is not a safe bridge. We are suing this town because this is not the right place for this bridge to be. Happens all the time with cities in New York as well. My building right now is going through it. We have scaffolding all around our building because someone deemed that it was not safe. They put scaffolding around it, and that's one of the ways that we're avoiding the fine or the penalty. The emergency, though, is like, hey, if you don't fix this bridge, like immediately someone's going to drive over and it's going to crash into the water and someone's going to get seriously hurt and you're probably going to get sued for millions of dollars. So that's an emergency. So the bridge costs $100,000 to fix, but you can potentially get sued for millions. I think any project sponsor will be very motivated to get that done. The other 3, though, are a little bit harder. They're a little bit harder to make a sell on. The mission critical, the operational, and particularly the strategic. The strategic is a long range mission. So someone might think, oh gosh, I don't want to put my money up front because I don't see how this is going to pay for itself down the road. And believe it or not, paying for itself is not always the main goal of a project sponsor, which we'll get into in a moment. I see some of you writing. If you didn't get a chance to write all these down quite yet, this PowerPoint deck will be on Schoology this afternoon, as well as this lecture. So there's 2 different ways that project sponsors choose what projects they're going to pay for. There's tangible values and then there's intangible values. Tangible value, just like how it sounds, it's pretty clear that by doing this, we're going to have a rate of return where we're going to earn our money back. That's not that hard of a sell. Okay. It's like, all right, I get it. I'm going to put this money up front. Just like if I'm investing in a stock and I'm going to be told I'm going to earn my money back and then some. Yeah, sure. I'm going to totally go for it. But the intangible value is a little bit harder. Okay. The intangible value can be like, oh gosh, like I want to put the money up for this, but I don't see clearly how this is going to benefit me, how this is going to benefit our organization, how this is going to drive the business forward. That can be harder to sell to a project sponsor. So here's the idea that I've heard before: the CFO to the CEO. The CFO says, "Why are we pouring all this money?" And this could be training, this could be projects, this can be leadership development, this can be classes, this can be whatever you want to put in there. And people just leave, to which the CEO says, what if we don't pour any money into our people and they stay? And they're not doing the best work that they can possibly do. This is always the chasm that leaders face. So do me a favor, raise your hand, tangible or intangible benefit. Imagine that you're on a project team who wants to open up a gym in the office. Would that be a tangible or an intangible benefit? Can someone raise? I see the chat box going. Justice, what are people responding in the chat box?
Brian says intangible. Chelsea says tangible.
Okay, interesting. So let's go ahead and hear both perspectives. Brian, why is this intangible, do you think?
I assume it's like for the, I guess, the well-being of your employees. Are not really going to charge them for this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of immeasurable. You know, their performance might increase at work because they relieve stress at the gym, but that's
Right.
not something you can really measure with a dollar amount.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Thank you, Brian. And Chelsea, you said this was tangible. How would you present this as a tangible benefit?
Well, if it is something that they do have to pay for, see that, you know, being a revenue for the company, or if it's something that they don't and say they have like a trainer come in, I don't know. I see it as one is going to help de-stress, you know, the employees and maybe make work more easier to do, and we could still profit.
Absolutely. That's a really good point, Chelsea. What if you were to say to your team, suppose you have 1,000 people in the office, hey, $10 a month, it automatically comes out of your paycheck. That's the same cost as Planet Fitness, and you can go to the gym. We'll give you the code to it, and the gym pays for itself within a matter of months. And then there's also the intangible benefit, like what Brian said. If the gym were free, it helps people relieve stress. It helps them be more productive. But that's kind of hard to measure or quantify. So I want you to imagine this: someone who's feeling brave. All right, I want you to imagine that I'm the CEO of the company. You and your colleagues here have this idea or this vision. Let's open up a gym in our building, and you're going to come to me and present why that is a good idea and why I should put, our company's money, we'll say $10,000, to create a gym in the office. Someone want to be brave and raise their hand and be the first person to present why this is a good use of company money. We've already hit on a few, but let's talk about some more. Because there's quite a few. You could probably talk about 20 different reasons why it's a good idea. Yes, Brian.
I feel like opening a gym will be very beneficial to the company because studies have shown year on year that going to the gym relieves a lot of stress, which increases productivity, which will mean increased profits for the business.
Absolutely. Wow. Very clear and succinct, Brian. Excellent. I'm still not convinced though. Tyrell, what do you have to share?
Even though COVID may say otherwise, it's never a dying business. There's always going to be people that want to work out. And I think Brian can attest to that since he was selling equipment during quarantine.
Okay. So you use your observation skills there for requirement gathering. You saw that Brian was still in business. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know, guys. $10,000 is a lot of money for a company just to use. I mean, what's the benefit to our employees, really? What do you think, Renish?
As your CFO, I advise you not to do this.
You think we can use $10,000 somewhere else, right?
Most definitely, especially given COVID. Our company's productivity percentage has gone up 112%.
Right.
With our employees working from home, and them coming into the gyms, spreading those COVID particles. I don't think it'll be that well.
Yeah, and I mean that $10,000 can be you and me and the COO going to our annual trip to Hawaii, right?
I could get that machine in the office we always wanted.
Exactly. We finally get the fancy coffee machine in our office. Yeah. Tyrell.
So I have a proposal.
Let's hear
in the case of COVID, how about we create the illusion that more people are in there, promoting more people to join the gym. We buy a larger space with less equipment, so it looks longer than it is.
Now we're getting really interesting. Okay. Anybody else on the team have a reason why we should spend this money on a gym in the office? You're all missing a very, very important piece that Google and Salesforce and Facebook have all figured out, because they all have gyms, they all have coffee shops, they all have lounges, they all have rooms with big screen TVs where you can watch games. Why do they have those things, Brian?
I'm not sure if I'm really going to say what you're expecting me to say, but I put on the chat, perhaps the retention rate of the employees. Like most people in that work for these big companies that care about their employees tend to stay there for much longer.
Yes, that's definitely part of it. The other part of it is that's the kind part of it. The dark and dirty secret of it, though, is if you're barber and your laundromat and your child's daycare and your, basically everything is at work, then guess what? You never have to leave work, right? Because if I'm a person who likes to work out, when I get done with my shift and I have to count in my commute time to go from the office to my gym to my home, and that adds an hour to my day. Well, hey, now there's a gym right here in my office, so I'll work an extra hour, and then I'll go to the gym, and then I'll go home. And these are all the little ways that companies can. I'm not saying it's tricky or manipulative. It's not. They're doing it because what Brian said, they care about their employees and their welfare. But the more things that are available on site, the less people have to leave. You don't have to go out for lunch because you have a whole entire catered kitchen. You don't have to go to Starbucks because you have a cafe right there on the floor. And some of the, one place, like I know San Francisco, the Salesforce Tower in San Francisco, they have a whole entire like daycare right there in the tower. So like if I as a parent work there, I could go to work, drop off my kid, go upstairs and work. And then, I don't have to worry about commuting to drop my kid off at daycare. So pretty smart. That's how these companies make billions of dollars a year. So, all right, go ahead and put your hands down. We're going to go ahead and move forward. Who here knows what this term means? Raise your hand and let's hear it. Or put in the chat box. Justice, did anybody populate the chat box with what this means?
No, not yet.
There it is. Brian did it. Return on investment. Can someone raise their hand? And since we already heard from Brian once or twice today, and share what return on investment means. Chelsea, what does that mean, that term?
So return, well, I said of investment. I don't know if there's a big difference, but the money that you put in, it comes back. Or the money, how do I say, what you invested, you get that back. You profit. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, what are you gonna what's the return you're gonna get back? If I put in this much, how much can I expect to get back in the end? So there's the actual definition. So total cash flow divided by total cost of the project. For example, project costs $5,000, but by being done, we earn $7,500. Our ROI is 50%, right? So we got back not just what we put in, but we also got 2,500 more, 50% more. Pretty good ROI, right? If you were a savvy business person, a savvy project sponsor, you would say, oh, that makes perfect sense. I'm going to put in 5,000 and get 7,500 back. I mean, why wouldn't I do that? That's an easy one. So let's do some math, which I'm not very good at, but I know some of you are because you're finance people. Imagine you're a sales leader. Your team pulls in 100K a month, and you decide to send your sales team on a conference to Florida. It's going to cost 20 grand. All right. Every conference always happens in Florida because that way you can go golfing and hang out by the pool and all that stuff in between sessions. But upon returning and implementing your new techniques, you're now earning 105 a month. What's the ROI over 12 months of going to this conference? Do some math and tell me what you think it is. Randy says 60%. Brian says 5%. But the question is, over 12 months, what's the, yeah, there you go. Yeah, what's the ROI over 12 months? So you spent 20. Now you're making 5K more a month. What's the ROI over the course of a year? Assuming that you keep making the $5,000 every single month. Give you 5 more seconds and I'll go to my next slide. So Brian, he and I were in the same persuasion, and someone corrected me in the last class. The answer is 300% yes, because you 3 times your earning, but you have to subtract the 20,000 that you paid up front. So it's 200%. So really, in reality, you spent the 20K, but then you made 40K within 12 months. That's a pretty good rate of return, isn't it? Yeah, let's be honest though. If you were a CEO or the director of sales, and someone came to you on your team and said, "Hey, I want to send our whole entire team down to Florida for a week for a sales conference. It's going to cost 20K." Do you think they're just going to write you a check right away without asking any questions? Of course not. They're going to say, you're going to go to Florida and you're going to drink beer and eat food and not do anything all week. You're going to waste our company's money. If you come to them and you say, hey, with these techniques, we're going to have a higher rate of return and we're going to have this ROI, then all of a sudden it's a much more interesting proposition. That's an example of ROI. But what do you do if the ROI is not that impressive? Okay. So imagine that you have a bridge. I talked about this earlier, the $100,000 bridge that you expect to get $5,000 back annually in tolls, 25 cents per toll. The project sponsor, the city of New York, hey, we need 100K from you to build this bridge in rural upstate New York. Well, when's the ROI in it? Oh, it's 20 years. Would they be very excited about that? Yes or no? I see Renish saying no, not at all. So who here wants to raise their hand and tell us you're working for the highway system of the state of New York. This needs to get done. How would you get the state excited about it and write you that check? What do you think you would do? What would be your plan of action? I said the answer earlier in class. If you were paying attention, you already know the answer. I'll give you a hint. What if instead you said, hey, Governor Cuomo, there's this bridge in rural New York in a small town. And the fact of it is that the inspector came, he looked at it and he said, if this bridge is not fixed within 30 days, you're going to be getting a $5,000 penalty every single month until it's fixed. Is that motivating? Very motivating. Compliance. If you don't do it, there's going to be consequences. Or, hey, Mr. Governor, this bridge is not up to speed, and eventually what's going to happen is someone's going to go by it, the bridge is going to collapse, they're going to fall into the water, and they're going to sue the state of New York for millions of dollars. Is that motivating? Extremely. Because all of a sudden, that $100,000 doesn't seem that big of a deal if okay, we're getting docked $5K a month until this bridge is fixed. Or someone could fall in and sue us for millions, and it's going to cost us a lot more. So you approach it by a different angle than just plain and simple ROI. All right, let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen here for a moment. I got a breakout scenario. We're going to practice this together and how to really flesh this out. Let me go ahead and put it into the chat box. I don't know how many of you are interested in being a Wall Street analyst. Wall Street analysts make a lot of money, but they work really, really hard. One of my good friends is one, and he told me that he gets to his desk at 9:30 when the market's open, and he has like 3 screens in front of him the whole entire day, and he literally does not move until 4:30 when the market closes. Like, he just doesn't. I'm like, well, how do you eat? He goes, oh, what we actually do is when we come in the morning, we tell the office manager, like, today I want a burger and fries and a milkshake from Shake Shack. And she actually brings it over to his desk and puts it in front of him, and then he eats it while he stares at the market. All right, that's his day. And I was going to ask him when he's in the bathroom, but I don't really know him that well. But basically, for the sake of this argument, we're going to say you can't leave your desk because it'll cost you too much. You and your team are stuck to your desk all day, 9:30 to 4 o'clock, and this is your breakout. So take 10 seconds, read it, and I'm going to put you into your rooms. All right, so everyone's clear on the goal. You and your team of analysts, you guys get kind of sluggish around 2. It's really, really hard, if not impossible, to get up and go get coffee on the 8th floor. You're in an old building, elevators are slow, you just can't do it. So now you have to convince your manager, hey, you know what? It's a really nice espresso machine. Put it right there. You can go get a nice espresso in 30 seconds and get back to your desk and keep making money for your clients. How are you going to convince her that this is a good use of company time? I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes, and then I want to hear what you come up with. Enjoy your breakout. Hey, Sarai, you there? All right, welcome back. Welcome back. I want to start off by hearing from room number 5, Jose, Renish, and Soraya. What did you guys come up with? What's your plan of action to convince your manager that this espresso machine is worth the money that it cost?
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
You wanna go back? Okay. Well, we came up with 2 things. The first one was like they said that we're on the 1st floor and the next coffee machine is on the 8th floor.
Mm-hmm.
So the amount of time that it would take for us to get there will consume a lot of our time away from the our screens and looking at the market, which possibly could end up in us losing money.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm pretty sure the money that we make is a lot greater than the $500 we will spend on an espresso machine.
Yeah.
And the second thing we came up with was that usually throughout the day, the markets had like a time where it's like,
Volatility.
The volatility is very low.
Mm-hmm.
It just tends to be a little bit more sluggish around lunchtime, just because I think around lunchtime here, it's like when the markets are closing in Europe or like in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So it tends to be sluggish. So just to give our traders a pick me up and get them like ready for closing, which is around 4 p.m. They're able to be very energetic and be really effective.
Yeah, because towards market close, like around getting to like 4 o'clock, the volatility kind of picks up, and you want to be in that little action, especially for traders, for active traders. They want to get cash those little swings.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, sounds like you guys really thought this through. Great job. Let's go ahead and give them a clap for that. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Renish. Thank you, Group 5. Sarai as well. Let's hear from Group 2, Chelsea, Randy, and Tyrell. how are you going to convince your manager this is a good use of company money?
Can I say something and then I'll let you guys talk?
Of course.
Say something first. Okay. So what I said originally was that it was operational, but they said that it was strategic. And why I said it was operational is because time saved equals more productivity. So that's more profits for the company.
Yep.
And yeah, so I'll let them explain why they said strategic.
Well, and also too, just make sure we level the deck here. Is it can be more than one, right? It can be more than one, so it can be both strategic and it can be. Randy's laughing. I don't know what happened in the breakout room. You want to explain what's going on there, Randy and Tyrell? I saw a lot of laughter, and I didn't know what I said that was funny.
No, it was, we had a plan on how we were going to propose, and Chelsea came out of nowhere with this energy. But I guess with
hey, you know what though, Randy? This is the thing. That's how that's how project teams work.
Yeah, that is very
reality.
True. It's very true. It's very true. But it was a discussion, wasn't an argument. But to propose it to our manager, basically, it saves time instead of going to the 8th floor. Also, it won't just be for the afternoon; it could be for the morning. Not everyone is a morning person, so you come in to the office, get an espresso. You're good for however long it is, and then get another one when you can. You can also have one person get up and do it. That way, not as many people are getting up at the same time. It saves time, and yeah.
Excellent, thank you. So nobody mentioned. Oh yeah, Tyrell.
Sorry, I would just like to say that group was a mess. No, I'm joking. Also, it's strategic because, like Randy said, it's also a morning thing. And in the morning, since you're not going in the office until about 9:30 when the market is opening, that gives people an extra half hour or so to sleep. And when they sleep, that gives them less travel time, less time to get their coffee in the morning, so they can come straight to the office, get their coffee there, and go straight to work.
All right, do me a favor. We're gonna tease this out because I'm having way too much fun with this right now. Imagine that I'm your manager, and I'm a really, really tight-fisted person with our company money, and I propose back to the team, which is all of you. I'll do this under one condition. All right. My one condition is that every espresso costs $1. All right. Give me a green check if you're like, yes, boss, let's do it. Or a green X if you're like, no, I don't think that's the right move. If I say, I'm not putting $500 up unless we charge $1 an espresso. I'm not going to give away free espresso. This isn't Starbucks. Everybody's saying yes. Come on. Why don't you?
Is this forever? This
is indefinite. We're buying this espresso machine.
Wait, how much are the espressos on the 8th floor?
They're free. Yeah, thank you for clarifying, Tyrell. 8th floor, they're free, but our team, they're $1. Like, you want an espresso, $1. I mean, you're making $300,000 a year as an analyst. What's $1 a day?
Realistically, as an analyst, you wouldn't show up in front of your computer at 9:30. You would before market watch. You want to look at your watch list and whatnot. So being there, you wouldn't be there like 7:30. So I pay that $1.
So 7:30 to 4, you're at your desk. You're not really moving unless you literally have a bathroom emergency. You're there, and you're saying to me $500 for this espresso machine because you can't go to the 8th floor. I just don't see it. You know what? I'll do it if it's $1 an espresso. Chelsea, you have your hand up.
I think that's a good idea because, okay, so there's less time having to, if that's the one in the building, that means people from other floors are going, you're wasting a lot of time, right? You have it in the office, less time wasted, and it's only $1. Say you were to go to Starbucks, it's more than $1. So even though it's not free anymore, it's still very affordable. And like you said, if you're making a good amount, then that shouldn't really be.
I see Jose's hand.
No,
thank you, Chelsea.
I was gonna add to Chelsea's point. Like, I work in a bakery, and we sell coffee, and our espressos are $2.85, and the double is like $3.15. So I think you're gonna be saving a lot of money regardless.
Yeah, and this is a very nice machine. Like these make quality, espressos. This isn't like a Keurig. This is nice. Randy?
Can the office pool our money together to get an espresso machine? So we can just-
Ooh, there you go. Okay, so you're saying like everyone on this call, there's 16 of us. Someone pull out a calculator. What's 500 divided by 16? We each pay whatever that is. Someone tell me. $31.25. So we pay $31.25 for everybody on this call, and then we each pay let's say $10 a month, and that includes all of our coffee for the month, and then we all have access to it. But then the problem is, what happens when someone raises their hand? I don't even drink coffee. Why am I paying into this? Right? It gets complicated. So, anyways, it's just a scenario that you guys can think through, because the reality of it is projects cost money. And sometimes the reason that we're doing this is not cut and dry. It's not we're taking the sales team to Florida for a week and we're going to up our revenue by $5,000 a month. Sometimes that happens, but sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's the bridge that's dilapidated, but we don't want to pay the money for it. Sometimes it's the espresso machine that costs $1. I personally, this is my humble opinion, if I was working as an analyst and making $300K a year and my company was going to charge me $1 for an espresso, I'd be pretty annoyed. I'd be like, really? Like, I make a lot of money for this company and they're going to charge me for espresso? Like, what? Yeah, Angie, you would say I was ungrateful. Well, that's just kind of how I feel. I'm just sort of like, I don't know. I don't know if I would want to pay $1 for that. I'd rather just not me. Okay, well, that's good. I'd be a little bit annoyed. Yeah, the company's ungrateful. Yeah, we make so much money. Our team right here, we make hundreds of millions of dollars for this company a year. They're going to charge us $1 for a coffee? That doesn't make any sense.
If we are putting the dollar into the coffee machine, the espresso machine, that dollar put every day throughout a year, we can actually put that money aside and we can actually do something bigger. For example, $1 every day for each person, add that up over a year, we can propose an entire plan. Or what we can do, we can get a foosball machine, like later, ping pong table, like it could be like a whole plan.
I got one better for you. How about this? I love that idea. Instead of the ping pong machine, we're going to source our coffee from like a small vendor, like in the developing world. And then every dollar that we give goes to help out that coffee maker. Then you feel good about it. Like, okay, I can give, a few dollars to help out this farmer. That's no problem. I'm a busy person. I don't have time to volunteer or do this kind of stuff. So sure, I'll do that. Or to Renisha's point, every dollar goes towards our end of the year holiday party. We're all going to, have an awesome time, get steak dinners and enjoy each other's company. And that goes towards that. So anyways, there's a lot of angles you can take. We spent a lot of time talking about this. We already have. We got 15 more minutes left of class. Real quick, let's just go ahead and get back to my PowerPoint. I have a few more notes I want to share with you, and then I'll let you go. Project budget. You all know what a budget is. You're all very smart people. You all know a lot about finance, but essentially the budget is how much is this going to cost? Excuse me. How much is this project going to cost? Once again, this PowerPoint will be on Schoology this afternoon, as well as the lecture on YouTube. So if you don't get all the notes during this next 10 minutes or so, don't stress yourself out. But bear in mind that a project is not just the material cost, but also everything else: staff, operational cost. That's one thing we didn't factor into this espresso machine. Somebody has to clean it. Somebody has to, put new espresso into it. Someone has to take care of it. That's operational cost. Sometimes there's traveling involved. Sometimes the project manager or the scrum master, who we'll talk about in 2 weeks, comes from another part of the country. He or she stays in a hotel. There's all these things that go into a project. Direct costs. This is cut and dry. Salaries, consultant fees, materials, licenses, travel. This is pretty obvious how much this is going to cost. You can figure this out pretty quickly when you're building out the budget for a project. But then there's also what are called indirect costs. Okay. These things are not as cut and dry. So these are things like office space, things like utilities that might fluctuate, administration, the company's insurance, things of that nature. That's an indirect cost. So direct costs, pretty easy. Indirect costs, those sneaky fees that you don't think of up front. There are 2 approaches. I do want to spend some time on this because this is important to get to. The top-down approach, which is essentially the project sponsor says, okay, you need $300,000. Here's your $300,000 check. project manager, project team, go accomplish the mission. All right. That's the really clear way to do it. The bottom up approach is a little bit different. The bottom up approach is when the team itemizes every small little cost associated with the project and then presents it to the project sponsor. So instead of $300,000, here you go. It's, hey, this project's going to cost $284,000.67. We got it down to the penny of how much this is going to cost. So here's a way to make that very practical. You're renovating your apartment. I know we use that example a lot, but I think it's practical. Contractor says to you, hey, 30 grand, I'll redo your apartment. And then you just, as the sponsor, as the person who owns the apartment and is going to be paying for those renovations, you say, okay, all right, here's a $30,000 check. I'll see you in a month. Have at it. The bottom up approach, though, is for you as the project sponsor to say, I want these cupboards, they cost $3,500. I want this bathtub, it costs $5,000. I want this oven range, it costs $1,200, and on you go. And you kind of piecemeal it bit by bit by bit, which ultimately is going to cost you more. It's just going to cost you more. Chelsea, do you have your hand up from earlier, or do you have a new question or comment?
Lost from earlier.
No problemo. All right. Chat box question, top down or bottom up, which one is more popular in project management when it comes to crafting your budget? Is it more popular to say, hey, here's your check, go do it? Or is it more popular to say, let's, start from the bottom and work our way up and present to the project sponsor, this is how much it's going to cost? Which one do you think is more common in project management? Angie says top down. What else do you guys think? Sophia also top down, bottom up. So we have a mixed bag here. Let's start with Sophia. Sophia, you said top down. Why do you think top down is more common?
I feel like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like that's like, they would say, here's your budget. Like, this is what you have to work with. And they'll just get it out the way so that you know what you're working with. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a really good point. Excellent. So the answer is yes, it's more common to do the top-down approach with project sponsors, but it also depends a lot on the project. So Preciosa, you wrote bottom up. Why do you think bottom up is more common, or when can it be more common?
I guess because you get to learn more if you start from the bottom and work your way up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It really depends on the project sponsor as well. If the project sponsor is the CEO of the company and you're asking for a $5,000 project, he'd rather or she'd rather just write you a $5,000 check and be done with it. Okay. But if it's a very small scale project and you're really invested in its success, you probably would adopt more of the bottom up approach. The reason why the top down is more common is that management wants better control of the spend, and the bottom up can be risky, right? What if you estimate something is going to cost what it will, and then it turns out costing a lot more? Then you have to go back and ask the project sponsor for more money, which maybe that happens once or twice, but by the third time, it's like, whoa, time out here. This is kind of getting out of control. I'd rather just give you the check and be done with it and let you manage the project. Somebody asked a really, really sophisticated question in our last class. We talked about waterfall. We talked about agile. How does that fit into these ideas, bottom up versus top down? Anybody got their thinking cap on and can sort of articulate what the difference is between those two areas? Yeah, Brian, what do you think?
I think top down is very agile because you're working with a general budget as opposed to something that's so on the dot when it comes to bottom up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sophia, you had your hand up too, or was that from earlier?
No, I have my hand up. I personally think it's the opposite, because I think that if you're giving top down, then it's more set in stone, at least off the bat, maybe. So that could be more waterfall. While if you're naming things as you go, then it could be more agile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, also a good point. Thank you, Chelsea.
I said that waterfall would be bottom up, agile top down. So what it says is waterfall is pre-planned, so you know exactly what you're doing and what everything should cost. So yeah, you should have an idea of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and this is where it gets, complicated with project management. Is like you have to decide what you think is the best approach. Okay, so what everyone just said here, Brian, Chelsea, and Sophia, that would be determined by the project sponsor, by the stakeholders, by the project manager. Like, what do you think is best? So, for example, we use the example of a website pretty often for an agile project. So, like, suppose a person says to you, "Hey, here's $1,000, build my website." And if you did the waterfall approach, you do all the features that this person asked for, and you present it, and they say, this isn't really what I wanted. What I wanted was this, and this, and then you realize, okay, but I'm going to need $500 more, right? Because you're asking me to do a lot more work that way. But if you take the agile approach and you say, okay, I'm going to do, give me 150, and I'm going to make 2 pages for you. Okay, great. This and this looks good. Excellent. I'll give you 150 more. I'm gonna make 2 more pages for you. This and this, and that looks good. So that's the way that you can kind of fix it. So it really depends on the project sponsor and how do they want to work. Do they want to just give you the big lump of money and say, you go do it? Or would they rather be invested in the process and say, I'm going to give you piece by piece as I see the project come to fruition. So that's the thing about projects, is that you also have to get paid because projects are not free. But you have to decide with the person, what do you think the best approach is? Last question, then we're going to wrap up today's class. How do you think the psychology of the project sponsor impacts which approach you should take? Top down or bottom up? Like in the sense of like the person's personality, how they're wired. How should you factor that as a project manager as you're seeking capital to do your project? Yes, Dondre.
Somebody who would be an investor or like a donor who would be giving money, I don't think that they have time to have multiple meetings to talk about budgets and things. So they would much prefer the upfront cost rather than having to ask for money along the way.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you. Chelsea, do you have your hand up, or is that from earlier?
So I said, like, if they are rushing and they want something done fast, then it would make more sense to do the top-down approach.
Mm-hmm. Yep, love it. Thank you. And Science, you put, if the sponsor is risk averse, the person may prefer a top-down approach. What do you mean by that?
Sorry, I believe that a person who is risk averse wouldn't want any possibility that the project will cost more than you would expect. So a top-down approach would have a set limit that the person who is sponsoring the project would already have to commit and not have to commit more. So I guess that's good.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Rasan. So if you know the project sponsor is risk averse, that person would rather just say, here's a check, go figure it out, as opposed to things could go wrong. I don't want things to go wrong. I want you to do it as you said that you would do it. And Randy, you said depends on how invested they are in the overall quality of the project. What do you mean by that?
Sorry. So if I'm a brand new homeowner, I'm definitely going to be super invested in the renovation of my home. So I will go bottoms up. Versus if I'm just renovating like a summer home.
Yeah.
It's like a top down kind of thing. Just, make it look nice.
Yep. Figure it out. Here's your money. Have a nice day. Yeah. How invested are you in the process? Yeah. It's a really good point. Yeah. I love that. So someone made a comment in the last class, which I want to, raise to all of us here, going back to the gym analogy, right? You go to their CEO. We want $10,000 to build a gym in our office. And that he's going to say no, or she's going to say no. Or just, nope, sorry, too cheap. Not going to do that. There's a Planet Fitness down the block. They can go there. Someone proposed, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you say to that person, if they're risk averse, they don't want to spend money, hey, there's like a really cool treadmill that you can put your laptop on the top front of it, and you can like walk and you can kind of do work at the same time. It'd be kind of nice to have, especially like in New York in January, February. It's really cold outside. Gets the blood flowing. What do you think about that? It costs $600. A lot more likely to say yes to that as opposed to a $10,000 gym. Then about a month later, you say, hey, you know what? That treadmill really gets used quite a bit. And some of the people have been asking for some kettlebells in there as well. To just do some body weight work and swing some kettlebells. That's $100. What do you think about that? Yeah, sure, whatever. And then what happens after a year? You have your whole entire gym. Yeah, you have your whole entire gym. So it's one way to propose it as opposed to, hey, we need 10K. We want to build a gym. No, I'm not doing that. Well, can we buy a treadmill? Sure, you can do that. And then little by little, you build out your projects. So pretty amazing what you can get done if you kind of learn how people will work and the psychology behind them. All right. Any questions on that before we conclude? Hope this was a helpful class to you all. Just a few quick reminders. There is no program tomorrow. It's Veterans Day. Enjoy your day off. By Thursday, if you have not already, reply to at least 2 posts on the discussion board. And also by Thursday, 11:59 p.m., submit your 1-page essay on where you're going to move and why you think the cost is worth it, doing the cost benefit analysis that we spoke of today. You do not have to choose one of the 2 places that I showed in the beginning of class. You can do your own research on Zillow or Trulia, Street Easy, whatever it is. And all you just have to tell me is like, I chose to live in this apartment or I chose to live in this house because these are my reasons why. If you're trying to convince somebody that this is the right decision for you to do, don't overthink it. 3 paragraphs is fine. Biggest thing, typos, grammatical errors, punctuation. Please make sure all of that is good. All right. Work from home, or what do you mean, Brian?
Like, let's say I want to go to Panama if I'm going to be working from home as a software engineer or something like that. Can I choose a location outside of here?
Of course. Yeah, I love it. Be creative if you want to. You know, I was thinking earlier, like if Europe remained remote, like, you know, indefinitely, I'm moving to California because I would love to work from like 6 to 2 every day as opposed to 8 to 5. That'd be great. Or 6 to 3. So not that I would actually want to live in California. I really like New York. And I've been to California one time and they were like, Eric, you talk really fast. And I was like, no, I don't. You talk really slow. Anyways, guys, have a great day. Enjoyed being with you all. And I'll see you Thursday.